It is August 27th, 2017, Wrestleview Live, number 20. This is an impromptu show. We actually were not going to be doing a podcast tonight until the viewer demand rolled in. Hi, I'm Adam Martin, editor-in-chief of Wrestleview.com. We're on the front page of Wrestleview. No pay-per-view. We're not talking about professional wrestling. We're talking about, well, I guess some people call it a freak show, but I didn't think it was a freak show. I thought it was two dudes trying to punch each other, so I don't know how that's a freak show, but there's a lot of elitism in the world, and who better to join me to talk about elitism is our old pal Hunter Golden, former Wrestleview.com staff member, moving up in the world, winning championships in baseball.
Yes.
And now for some reason, the people really, they actually called you out by name on our Facebook group, which is going to be retitled soon because the Trey and Adam show is dead.
Yeah.
But they wanted to hear what you thought about Mayweather McGregor tonight, sir.
Well, that is flattering.
It's very flattering. You should feel happy. They still kind of they still care a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, face punchy shit is kind of my slutty babysitter now, so to speak.
Well,
so like I've got baseball is the life, that is the passion, and then I guess I've got UConn basketball and face punchy stuff to be the slutty babysitter in the off season.
Well, we would sneak in talks about mixed martial arts, and you would go on Tyson tirades in the Wrestleview radio days. So it wasn't super uncommon that we would have conversations about fighting. But I don't know. It was weird because last Sunday I was doing the SummerSlam breakdown with Doug, and at the very end of the podcast, I was asking him if he planned to order the show tonight. And
Sure.
he wasn't like negative on it. He's just like, well, I'll probably like pay attention. But as we were talking about it, like everybody was trashing the fight in the chat, and they're like, oh, it's a waste of money, and why would you waste a Saturday? And we've surrounded ourselves in interesting circles in recent years where there will be the pro wrestling fans that will cross over and watch mixed martial arts or boxing. Or there's the pro wrestling fan that just strictly watches wrestling, or they're the wrestling fan that is into other sports. But for some reason, when it came to any sort of mixed martial arts talk, like some people would be like super dialed in with us, and then other people would just be like, shut the fuck up. Like, we don't want to hear about this. But tonight I thought was totally different because this was...
It's a cultural event. It
was a cultural event. It was so mainstream. I've seen articles calling this like a travesty that this fight even happened tonight. But it's like, I guess the thing is, like, I understand, like, I like football, but there's a big difference between watching a football game and two guys like literally trying to knock each other's blocks off. And like, I understand, but there's like parameters and there's rules and like, there's just a different dynamic to boxing and mixed martial arts. And I've never, like, I notice when I talk to people that are like super dialed into like football or baseball or basketball, it's like, yeah, but they're playing a game. Like, they're not actively trying to like fucking
hurt each other.
Yeah, and it's like
physical harm.
Yeah, and it's very weird. Like, I'm looking in their eyes, and I'm saying, do you understand the difference between someone like literally trying to hurt someone and then like try to make a basket or touch? Like, I know there's physical attributes of those sports, but fighting to me is just on another level, and some people just flat out aren't into it. Which is why we did a poll tonight. We said, if Hunter and I did a podcast tonight, would you listen? And overwhelming response of people said, yes, we want to hear what you guys think about this. So the last time we did one of these was when CM Punk fought, and that was a complete joke.
Yeah.
The one thing I was, and I've Hunter did this fucking tweet tonight asking who did better, CM Punk or Conor McGregor. It's like, how dare you, sir? So the biggest difference from that was you had the crossover pro wrestling audience. The second time it happening, first with Brock, but Brock was a legitimate amateur wrestler, and Punk was just like, you've always described him as the dude who hung out at the 7-Eleven that was trying to become a fighter. But
yeah,
that was just different. This was not. Now, I know someone listening to me that is a big boxing fan, like, well, what's the difference between Conor McGregor walking in to a boxing fight? I was like, well, yeah, but
a lot. I mean, a lot. Like, Conor McGregor's a legitimate athlete that does an athletic sport. I mean, look, I mean, the CM Punk to MMA fight was like watching George Clooney or Mel Gibson after Braveheart, like, decide to walk into a professional sports arena. Like, it's not real. Like, wrestling is a TV show that's about fighting. Like, it's like NYPD Blue, like watching, or Law and Order. It's like watching, Mariska go off camera and try to, like, arrest people in Harlem. Like, it's absurd, right? Where, yeah, there's athletic movements that are required in pro wrestling, but it's not a sport on any significant level. Like, sports are a game where there's rules that dictate the outcome of what's going to happen. Pro wrestling is something where they make the rules up to suit the storyline, and they're not the same thing, even though those guys might be really athletic. I mean, Roman Reigns, The Rock, I mean, I can go down the line of guys that are legitimate athletes, but going from that realm and then all of a sudden, doing athletic things to, like, a peak, like, pinnacle elite athletic competition, like, that's not the same thing. Like, John Cena was a starting offensive lineman at Springfield College for 4 years, probably could have maybe played in the CFL, but, like, it's just like watching John Cena get, like, parachuted into the Super Bowl and try to, like, break through the Patriots defensive line and sack Tom Brady. I mean, that's absurd. It's not going to happen. Conor McGregor is a legitimate fighter. The difference, I think, between MMA and boxing is like the difference between football and rugby. It's same general idea. You take a funny shaped ball and you run to one side or the other to score points and sometimes kick it. And to prevent those points from being scored, you tackle guys. But, like, the rules are different, and the physical tools that are required of the athlete to succeed in that field are different. Like, are there guys that could cross over? I mean, sure. Like, I could see, a running back in the NFL going to rugby and having some success. Like, give him fucking 3 or 4 years. Like, okay, great. He's going to go out there and, he's going to score some tries, and he's going to be hard to catch, and he's probably going to be a little bit bigger than those guys. But, like, the skills that are required to succeed in rugby are different from football, and the rules dictate that. Whereas the rules in pro wrestling are just made up to suit the storyline. So it's a completely different thing. I don't see there being any similarities between them at all.
Not at all. And tonight was, so there was this interesting question of, like, okay, first of all, the idea that Conor McGregor thought it was awesome to even start talking shit to Floyd Mayweather was pretty interesting for the last, like, 2 years. But right. It was also like, that's not going to happen. Like, this seems ridiculous. I mean, and as good of a fighter as Conor is, like, he's talking shit to, like, the best defensive boxer in history. Yeah. So this idea that, like, even if, like, somehow the fight does happen, it's going to be, as great of a mixed martial arts fighter as Conor is, you're going to see the difference pretty quick. And yes, like, okay, I'm totally going to admit this to you. Like, when I saw, like, Conor standing in front of Floyd, I was like, God, he's a lot fucking bigger than Floyd. And, maybe he can bully Floyd, and he's not going to box him the way, like, Canelo. Canelo was throwing bombs at Floyd, and Floyd was just
torpedoes.
Yeah. And I was just like, I don't think Conor's going to do that. I think Conor's going to use angles, and he's going to keep moving. And as the fight progressed, I was like, okay, first round, okay, clearly Conor. Second round, again, clearly Conor. Third, clearly Conor again. The fourth, you could say Conor took it, but it was debatable. And then as it got into, like, the fifth and the sixth, I was like, oh, so Floyd's just basically waiting for Conor to get tired. And that was this is the Achilles heel of Conor McGregor as a professional fighter, whether it's mixed martial arts or now making his pro boxing debut, is
I get that on level. I don't think that's necessarily true. It's just boxing's different.
It's different, but
animal. Like, and one of the most maddening things I heard after the fight was they had Stephen A. Smith and Chael Sonnen and Teddy Atlas on ESPN, and Teddy, of all people, is going, well, Conor had to switch his game plan. Floyd rather had to switch his game plan. I'm sitting there going, what fight did you watch? Like, and I mean it even-handed on both levels. Like, from the fifth round on, Floyd progressively picked him apart.
Yeah.
Like, in the fourth round, it started to swing back, and Floyd started to, throw punches. By the fifth and sixth round, he started to find his setup punches and found his range. By the seventh round, Conor was gassed. Absolutely pool noodle leg gassed. And Floyd started to find his power shots. And the 8th, they started to land. In the 9th, Conor was probably lucky that he got out of the round. And the 10th, I mean, it was a disaster. I mean, I was, part of me, and this is me having watched a lot of boxing, so I'll admit to a little bit of bias towards boxing just because I've got a history with it. But I was a little surprised, had this been a more polished corner that he had. I was a little surprised he answered the bell. Like, he was dead coming into the 10th round. Took 2 big shots, coming into the first 20 seconds of it, and then was dead. I mean, there was nothing behind his punches from round 5 on. And when we got to the 10th, there was no mustard behind him. He threw 2 haymakers, and Floyd just kind of patiently took his time, waited for Conor to present himself, which he did, and smashed him 4 or 5 times. And I mean, look, even if we say, this is the flip side of that. Like, even if we say, okay, well, Conor won the first 3 rounds, and we want to say that Floyd is setting that up. We're talking about the great, at least at the lower weights, outside of maybe Ray Robinson. Maybe. Floyd Mayweather is the best to ever put on boxing gloves. And Conor McGregor has 3 rounds over him in his life, having never fought a professional boxing fighter. I don't care if Floyd was throwing them or not. Like, that's like me getting in there with a guy that throws 99 and fouling 6 pitches off. Like, the fact that I can just do that is an accomplishment in and of itself. And when it came around to the end of the fight and Floyd clearly had him out on his feet, the stoppage was perfect, because I thought that Conor accomplished everything that he needed to accomplish in that fight. He did everything he needed to do to bring significance to himself as an athlete and to the sport of MMA. And nobody's going to gain anything from Conor getting flatlined in front of millions of people. No. And it was happening. I mean,
and it was weird too, because people were kind of complaining about the stoppage, and I was like, well, he was getting fucked up. Like, even you were talking about the round before, really towards the end, and Conor was describing it as fatigue, which is very clearly is what happened. But it was weird though, because like he gassed against Nate Diaz the second time again and weathered the storm. Like, Nate fucked him up against the cage, and he weathered the storm. And then the next round he came out and did completely better. So there was that moment where I was like, okay, he escaped the round, but this isn't the first time I've seen Conor get, completely fatigued and fucked up like that. He usually comes back, but then, he had this like moment where he started really fast, and Goosey brought it up in the chat, where Floyd, during a lot of the rounds, Floyd turned his back to Conor. And
trying to get a point taken away.
He was trying to get a point taken away, and there was a lot of times where Conor was throwing shots that was getting close to the back of the head, hammer fist. He was holding, when he was standing southpaw, he was putting one glove on top of Floyd's head with trying to judge distance, and then he was then trying to work in some body shots, and then eventually some trying to throw the left, which I thought he was doing a really good job. I guess here's what caught me by surprise was that for about 2 months, I heard Max Kellerman on First Take talk about how Conor McGregor would not land any sort of significant shot on Floyd Mayweather, that it was impossible. And in the first round, he lands this big fucking uppercut. And I was like, whoa. And I was even a little surprised. Now, I thought Max Kellerman was kind of full of shit, because a lot of those guys that have been talking on ESPN are, their job is to have hot takes 5 days a week. So
Robin Black, though, he's not a hot take guy, and he had Conor knocking him out in 5 or 6. Like, I just think you had competing commentators in a jousting competition. I mean,
it was weird.
There was a lot of that. It was a lot of that on Twitter too. It was really funny because I'm much of a boxing fan as I am an MMA guy, so I follow both. And it was like watching 2 different feeds. I had one guy that had the fight 7-0 Conor heading into the 8th. And was, adamant about it and tweeting constantly. And I'm like, what fight are you watching? And boxing guys, the minute Floyd got hurt, he was goading the uppercut to test his power. And like that's not, nobody goes, what I'm going to do to set the rest of the fight up? Go and take a fucking bomb to my face.
Yeah, it's weird.
From a crouched position. Like, no boxer says that. And so there was a lot of that going on. And that's too bad, because to me, and it's the same pro wrestling versus MMA argument. It's the same in MMA and boxing. There's room for both, and both are great in their own way. And the fact that we have people actively, I think, in the sports and in the media that try to literally formulate an agenda to kill the other one, I think that's garbage. I think that's bullshit. I think it's counterproductive for both sports. And I see that stuff, and it's discrediting and it's embarrassing. You know, I mean, I don't know a boxing commentator alive that would go out and be like, you know what Lennox Lewis should do against Hashim Rahman in the second round? Go out and take a clean uppercut. We're going to see how that goes the rest of the fight. Like, let's just let Shannon Briggs go and fucking clean a guy's clock with flesh shot in the second round. Ow, he's just testing his power. Like, you fucking kidding me? Like, no,
it's really weird.
Nobody's doing that. It's like somebody, an MMA guy going, you know what Conor should do against Khabib Nurmagomedov is let him take him down and take a bunch of punches in the face just to see if he can knock him out.
Just to see, yeah, I know. It's really weird.
It's fucking stupid.
Do you want to hear from Dana White, see what he thought about the fight tonight?
Oh boy.
He just took the well, I'm rolling it back a little bit, but let me get the audio in here and we'll see what Dana White had to say.
What's Uncle Dana got to say?
Yeah, Uncle Dana. Let's get him. He's just got introduced by Leonard Ellerby, so let's get him up here and see what he says. Here we go. I don't know how deep he gets into it, but we'll find out.
What's up, gang?
I don't know if he's taking questions from the
Any
media.
questions for me?
Yeah, media questions.
Because I'm tired.
Oh, Uncle Dana.
Hey, Dana in the back over here.
Yeah.
Straight in the back. Just, can you assess Conor's performance in your opinion? Did he do better than you thought? Was this what you saw in training at the Performance Institute?
Yeah, no, I'm so proud of Conor tonight, man. You know, it's not the fight that I thought it was going to be. It was a completely different fight than I expected. You know, Conor, when you get into professional boxing, right? And, you know, you guys know you start 4 rounds, you fight 6 rounds. He went 10 rounds tonight with arguably the greatest to ever do it. Max Kellerman, I've been trying to get a hold of him. He ain't answering his phone right now, but he said that Conor wouldn't land 1 punch on Floyd Mayweather. You know, there were a lot of people that were super negative about, you know, this boxing match with Floyd, and Conor looked unbelievable. I'm sure you guys probably already saw this, but if you didn't, the CompuBox numbers were in 9 of Floyd Mayweather's fights where it went 12 rounds. His opponents hit him with less than 100 punches. Conor hit him with 111 in less than 10 rounds. So it was a great fight. I'm really proud of Conor.
And Dana,
so that's just a little bit of Dana. Well, we don't want to show the full thing. You can go on the UFC YouTube page to watch all of it, but if that's and I'm not saying he's like setting a narrative, but I mean he is the UFC president and promoter, so he's going to obviously start. Not that he's making excuses, but it kind of goes off of what you were just talking about, where there was, you know, obviously there were some people that were very over the top with their support for Conor McGregor watching the fight. As those last 2 rounds played out and I saw the fatigue set it in, I mean, you just can't, you just couldn't pretend like Floyd wasn't doing work, and he was, and there was a moment too, I can't remember which round, it was the later rounds, where Floyd Sr. was like, you know, whenever you want to turn this up, and he was laughing, he was smiling, he's like, whenever you want to turn it up, go for it.
Just laughing after the second round. He goes, "You're going to do something in round 4?"
Yeah, he was just
like, yeah, I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
It was just like, I mean, again, I'm not trying to take away from Conor because I think that's criminal, because I think Conor showed legit boxing skills tonight.
He really did.
I thought he acquired a lot faster than a normal human would. But like, there was nothing in the Mayweather corner that wasn't exactly on the menu. Like, they were just like, his dad was like, so, you know, when are you going to start smashing him in the face? And Conor and Floyd was like, oh, 4 or 5. Like, it was as by the book / blueprint of a Floyd Mayweather fight as I've ever seen. I mean, yeah, he did rope-a-dope him for 3 rounds and tried to get his range and kind of watched Conor move in front of him. I thought Conor's jab was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, that was a legit elite level jab. I mean, and he kind of kept Floyd at bay, you know, at least for 5-6 rounds with it. But like, Conor didn't have the big shot. I mean, he wasn't fast enough to counter him. I mean, it was nothing that was going to invade Floyd's space in those 4 or 5 rounds. Like, he never, with the exception of that uppercut, which I think surprised Floyd, and I don't think he expected to see it. But I mean, on the reality is, in those first 4 to 5 rounds, like, there was nothing Conor did that like really put Floyd on his heels. And when when Floyd saw him getting a little tired and started to find his range with his jabs and his counter punches, and then started to find his power punches, like, I mean, he picked him apart. I mean, this is what should happen. Like, this isn't poo-pooing Conor. This is what should happen when a human being that's been in a professional sport and is arguably the greatest ever does something like this. And now I think Floyd, there was some people going, and fucking Christ, Stephen A. Smith was like, this was not a good looking fight from Floyd, and yada yada. I was like, yeah, but you're dealing with an MMA god. Like, is he going to kick me in the face? Is he going to grapple with me? Is he going to fucking hold the back of my head and punch me? Like, what kind of angles is he going to, like, Conor's going to give him looks and angles that Floyd's never seen in his life before, whether he wants to admit it or not, and whether it works or is functional in boxing or not. Like, none of that matters. An intelligent boxer that's not going in there to get his head smashed into the 80th row is going to go out there and just like, okay, what is this? Let's see what we've got. Oh, we can counter here. Oh, fuck, there's an uppercut. That stung a little bit. We don't want to get involved with that. But once he found his range, every round from 4 on got worse and worse and worse. And it wasn't even Conor fatiguing. It was Conor getting hit more and more and more, and having less and less and less of an offensive game plan, because, I mean, he said himself in the press conferences, like, I'm going to knock him out in the first 4 rounds. And I'm a lot of people said, Conor's chance is the first 4 rounds, which, given his background and the sport that he's in and what he does, like, that was his chance. And as soon as we got out of that, we just saw him literally get taken apart piece by piece. And I mean, people can say what they want to say, but again, this is a big jump. This is going from one sport to another. The fact that Conor even hung in there, the fact that his jab was effective, I thought really all 7 or 8 rounds. I mean, I'll give Conor credit. His jab was nasty.
It looked good. I guess I was going to ask you. Nasty. I was going to ask you, were you surprised at? I think a lot of people thought Conor was going to come out pretty ferocious, because I think even he knew too, the longer this went, it probably wasn't going to be in his favor. By no means did I think Floyd was going to like catch him with a shot and knock him out. Like, there was a lot of that stuff I saw, like, oh, Floyd's going to knock him out in the 6th. I was like, what the?
It is, dude. That's stupidity. Like, what Floyd Mayweather fight has he ever gone out and done that? The
last one was Ricky Hatton, which was like 10 years ago, and that was even like a flush.
Hatton walked into that.
He walked right into it. So yeah, I saw a lot of that stuff, and I was like, oh man. And then this is the one thing, when a fight gets this mainstream, you're gonna hear just stupid fucking analysis, especially like when you got Shannon Sharp and what's his name on Fox Sports. He's the troll. When you got
Bayless?
Skip Bayless. When you got those guys talking boxing, it's like,
I can't believe that guy gets paid millions of dollars just to talk about any sport. I mean, I've
weird.
Never seen a less informed, well-equipped guy to talk about anything. Other than just to piss people off.
It was just weird to hear like people with hot takes that clearly don't they don't watch a lot of boxing. What I was more surprised by was the lack of knowledge about Conor McGregor's fight history.
Horrible.
Like, it was just like, wow, like they know who he was, but they never watched this dude fight. So maybe they were, I guess I was very surprised at how good Conor looked the first 4 rounds, but I was also very keenly aware of how Floyd handles boxing fights and how he doesn't come out guns blazing. Yeah. He did start to come forward though, which I thought was kind of ballsy of him.
Well, I mean, he there's nothing Conor was going to do after the 5th round to knock him out.
No, I didn't think he was going to get knocked out, but I was very there was moments where Floyd was trudging forward. I was like, ooh, like, because there was a couple flush left hooks that Conor landed really, really good, and nothing, like you said, nothing to the point where it was going to, drop Floyd or anything like that. I was a little surprised at the lack of. I thought Conor was going to box a little more dirty. I thought there was going to be more punches to the arm. I thought there'd be more body punches. I thought there'd be more bullying. It seemed like you were talking about. After like the 4th round, I don't know if he just got very confident, and then it it was almost like Floyd gave him a sense of confidence, like, because he was landing some good shit, and I think he was like, oh well, this is going well, and I don't know, it was weird. It was like his bully mentality kind of just dissipated after that fourth or fifth round.
Watching Conor in MMA fights, you know what I think the most underrated aspect of Conor is? I think it's his clinch game. Yeah. And I think it's how he uses the fence. And he's not a guy that like gets like the Daniel Cormier treatment, up against the fence where DC is so strong and powerful and just leans on you on the fence and fucking grinds you and tires you out. But look what Conor did with Nate Diaz in that second fight. Like, that fight was won on the fence. And if you watch Conor fight, and maybe this is the boxing guy in me, maybe making the one quasi-valuable analysis that I can watching Conor fight in that context. Conor is a cattle rancher, and he walks guys down, and he gets them on the fence, and they don't have space to move. And he manages his space and does disrupting movement and body damage with his kicks. Like, that's what Conor does. And then he's funny. Like, I've always, and this is where the movement training comes in. Conor shows guys the fights they want to see. It's like being thirsty in a desert, and you see the oasis and the hallucination. And he shows you the oasis, and you run for the oasis. You want to get that drink of water, and instead of the water, it's fucking sand in your mouth. And instead of sand in your mouth, in this case, it's Conor's left hand, right in your fucking nuggets. And I've seen him do it so many times. Like, the thing that was crazy about the Aldo fight was I've seen Aldo hurt guys in anywhere from like 11 to 15 fights where there's that back and forth bouncing movement. He times guys off the fourth bounce, finds range, tags them with the right, hurts them, and then takes a step back and lets them inadvertently find their punch-drunk space in the octagon, and then sees what direction they're moving in, and he fucking moves in and fucking smashes them, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Aldo did. Conor showed him that fight in 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you watch Jose come in, he fucking smashed Conor in the face. And one of the underrated parts of that fight, it took Conor a second to realize he knocked him out.
Yeah.
Like, Jose fucking smashed him in the face. And it took Conor a fucking second to be like, fuck, I knocked him out.
Yeah,
his lights flickered for a second. But that's what he does. You go to the Chad Mendez fight where I think Chad's gas tank was a little bit lower. But even in the later rounds, like, those body kicks added up. Watch where Conor hits him with the overhand left. It's coming across the body, not straight on, across the body, across the fence. Go watch the Seaver fight where he knocks him out. It's across the body, across the fence. Go watch the P-Head Poirier fight. Across the body, across the fence. And he likes to corral guys, use his kicks to create space, manage distance. And when he shows them the trap door up against the fence,
then boom,
that's when he strikes. And that's what he did against Nate Diaz. And to, varying levels of success. There were some times where he fucking connected. There were some times where he kind of ate it because Diaz is a little bit more
bigger too.
He's just bigger. But I mean, in a boxing ring now, you go to the fence in an octagon, and it's hard. Like, you go into it,
it's different.
You're not going anywhere.
No,
like, there's nowhere to go.
There was
in a
times
boxing ring that becomes a weapon, and Mayweather's used those ropes.
Oh yeah, dude.
In his career,
there was I could see when he could tell Conor was slowing down, and he started really. You could see he was cutting the ring off, and he was cornering Conor, and Conor like did a good job of. He would turn off the hook, like he would throw the hook, but he would turn and he would try to keep moving. But every time he did that, Floyd was just was pushing him, and there were times where it looked, and it reminded me of when Diaz pushed him up against the cage, but it was going to be different in a boxing fight, obviously, where Diaz just picked him apart against the cage and he weathered the storm. But I don't know, man. I was impressed with him for the first 4 rounds. He was in there with a dude who's just at another level of boxing compared to him, and he looked pretty good. Like, I think that's the one thing that I took away the most from it was that listening to all these boxing analysts for the last 2 months just say like this is a joke, and this guy, I totally get why people watched like Punk go in there and embarrass himself and then say, well, that was a joke. I didn't really see this as a joke, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is such a freak show," and yeah, this dude has not had a professional boxing fight, and I totally understood that. But it wasn't like he didn't know how to box. He didn't it wasn't like he had exchanged and had fights before. It was really weird. They were kind of acting like it was a dude who just said, "Oh, I've never put on boxing gloves before, and I'm going to fight Floyd Mayweather." It wasn't like that. But by no means did I try to trick myself into thinking that, Conor was going to go in there and completely dominate. There was a lot of people that had a lot of, hope of that. And they said if that left hand, and that to me was the saving grace of this fight, was that if somehow he could figure out a way, and he was doing really good in the first 4 rounds, I thought, of getting close to that possibly happening, because we didn't know. I think that was the underlying question, is if he hits it, bam, over. But it wasn't just. It just, as it kept going, and the fatigue thing was the big question. I mean, I saw him training. He was sparring 12 rounds. He was doing a whole different cardio regimen. There was the Paulie Malignaggi, sparring shit that came
whatever
out.
That is. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that pisses me off in today's world, where, they take the fucking knockdown that he had in fucking 64 rounds, and the 15 seconds where Conor found a little success and either pushed him or knocked him down. Does it matter? I mean,
not really.
At the end of the day, like, that's such cherry-picked horse shit. Like, you're asking a guy to completely recondition himself over 3.5, 4 months. It's absurd. It's stupid to think that they're going to do that. Of course, it's fucking bullshit. Right? That's what it comes back down to me, with it is the idea that Conor's going to come. I mean, look, Conor was hammer fisting him in the back of the head, just like instinctually tonight.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like, you can't just deprogram a lifetime worth of training and reprogram it to beat the best boxer of all time. It's like fucking stupid. It's just stupid that anybody would think that. And that was never the intention for either of these parties. I mean, anybody that knows anything knows that. But at the end of the day, whatever Conor can do against Paulie Malignaggi in a social media campaign, or, sparring or any of that, look, whether Floyd was trying to throw 3 rounds or not, it's irrelevant to me. Like, Conor showed a pro elite level jab, some different movements that were fucking weird that Floyd had to kind of get used to. But outside of that, like, just that in itself is an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. Like, you're asking a guy, like, people forget the reason that Conor McGregor is a mixed martial artist is because he flamed out as an amateur boxer. Period. The only reason he turned in that direction was because Conor McGregor could only box at a certain level. And he parlayed his natural athletic ability to being an exceptional mixed martial artist, and has taken his ability to learn and adapt, and gave the greatest underweight fighter ever, arguably, one of his toughest fights in 10 years.
It was certainly better than the fucking. It was certainly better than the Pacquiao. Think about the Pacquiao fight 2 years ago. Like, that was a very defensive fight, and there was a lot of moments where Mayweather counterpunched him, but wasn't a very great fight.
The Canelo fight wasn't a great fight.
No, the Canelo, and that's kind of par of the course for Mayweather. So I thought, like, for once, like,
about that shit, but whatever. I mean, Mayweather's that good.
He's just a good counterpuncher. Yeah, he's a
great counterpuncher. His defense is impenetrable. It's like watching the Baltimore Ravens from 2001 play football year after year after year after year. And you can like it, you don't have to like it.
It's just there.
But that's what the art is. Like, get hit or don't get hit. Like, it's not rocket science.
Well, the one stupid narrative I kept hearing was like, well, you're gonna waste $100 on another Mayweather fight, and it's gonna be boring. It's like, I wasn't bored watching this. Like, what fucking planet are you on? Like, I just, it was one of those things where I was sitting there, I was watching the fight, and I was just like, I'm waiting for this to, I was waiting for it to get boring. I was like, when am I gonna, like, sit here and, like, okay, for instance, like, I was jumping on Twitter during the fight and just kind of seeing what people were saying in between rounds, because I was curious. I thought, like, how are people scoring this? Because obviously they're not going to be the underlying decision maker when it comes to the judge scores. But people were obviously like, okay, Conor got the first, okay, Conor got the second, Conor got the third. There was some debate on the fourth. Obviously, as the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, it was starting to balance itself out. Some people had the fight completely even. Hunter mentioned people were saying that some people had Conor winning like 7 rounds to 1, which is a little silly if you were watching the fight. But by no means or by any situation at all was I sitting there bored. And I remember thinking back to the Pacquiao fight a couple years ago, where it was just like, even listening to the commentary, they were very engaged. Malignaggi was very engaged, especially, and it was funny listening to Mauro Ranallo because he was kind of in the weeks leading up to this, kind of like, I don't see how Conor does anything to Mayweather, and then like after like the third round, he's like, wow, he's doing shit, he's doing work, he's things are happening. But it's always fascinating to go on Twitter and just kind of like see how people are grading it, even though they have no bearing whatsoever on the final scorecard. But
right, but I'll be honest with you, like there's just a certain level of decorum that lacks in combat sports that bothers me, and to watch longtime boxing analysts just take Conor McGregor and just laugh at him it's absurd. And then to watch MMA, I mean, there's guys I follow, I mean, that their post-fight breakdowns, like, I'll be honest, like, I watch almost every UFC pay-per-view, and I get on Twitter, and I, find the podcast link, and I want to listen to them. I try to do it multiple podcasts at a time. I go to work the next day, and I pull up what I need to pull up, and then that's my background noise, just listening to them talk about the fights. And these are credible people. These aren't people that are idiots. Like watching Robin Black sit there and go, "Oh, Conor's got to fucking starch him in 7." Like, what the fuck kind of stupid shit is that? Like, that's embarrassing for MMA. Like watching guys like Paulie Malignaggi. I mean, for all the involvement he's had in the nonsense and the build up in this, and I get his personal access to grind. Like, what kind of idiot boxing analyst comes in and says Conor McGregor has no power, he's got no jab, he's got no credibility, he's got, like, what kind of idiot do you have to be to sit there and that's the stance that you have to make? Like, you can't just take a step back, take a deep breath, and take a look at it and go, this could really be good for everybody. And that's what I got back to with the stoppage tonight when I'm sitting there, I'm reading Facebook and Twitter, and people are fucking raging about the stoppage, and I'm sitting there going, that is literally one of the best stoppages I've ever seen in boxing. Like, I sat through Richard Steele stopping Meldrick Taylor in 1990, being 2 seconds away from beating Julio Cesar Chavez. Like, I've seen bad stoppages, I've seen late stoppages, and I looked at that and I said to myself, like, what scenario plays out where this wasn't great for everybody? Like, what more should Conor McGregor be expected to do against the greatest boxer in the history of at least the lower weight guys? I mean, what more do you expect him to do? And why does, after Floyd's literally proved that he's a better boxer for 5 rounds and has the kid on Queer Street and is clearly hitting him with every power shot that he feels like hitting him with, what is the benefit to Conor McGregor getting flatlined?
I have no idea.
That's where this was headed.
Well, I think there was, like, I remember, like,
he wasn't going to get knocked out. I mean, this would have been like drooling face plant, twitching knockout.
Well, I remember 10 years ago, Joe Rogan had this, like, it's got like 1 million or 2 million views on YouTube. He had this, like, boxing versus MMA debate on ESPN.
Right.
And I forget who he was doing it with. Paul Blagata, or I forget his name. Right. He's a longtime boxing promoter. But there was a big back and forth.
Boxing component promoters are the worst.
But there was like a fight though. Like, they were having like an argument about like boxing versus mixed martial arts and how boxing's promoted and how mixed martial arts is promoted, and then they showed clips of like Floyd saying, these guys wouldn't let, they put a couple piercings in their ear, they're not real fighters, and then you have Chuck Liddell saying, well, I have a bunch of guys that could just totally knock out Floyd Mayweather. You know, and it was just like there was like this. So I feel like there's like been this underlying, and I've had like conversations with hardcore boxing fans that go like, "Why do you watch mixed martial arts? That's ridiculous. That's like it's a cock. You know, they do the John McCain. It's a human cockfight." And I was like, "Wow, you really." I mean, it was just like, well, it's encompassing one aspect of
John
fighting.
McCain's a hardcore now, so.
Well, yeah, it's exactly. Do you want to hear from Conor because he's about to take the stage at the post-fight press conference? I'm kind of curious.
Let's hear what Senor McGregor's got to say.
Because you were saying he sounded very concussed after the fight because you thought he was repeating himself a lot. He kept saying he was fatigued and he didn't feel like there was no power.
He had a string of about 5 sentences where I couldn't understand a word.
What he was saying? Okay, let's see what Floyd introduced him. So let's see what he has to say here. There we go. He's coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, to the podium, I'd like to call up the notorious one, Conor McGregor.
The fuck is Conor wearing?
That is a weird looking thing.
What's up, everybody? Hello.
Got some whiskey?
Put my whiskey down, notorious Irish whiskey.
Irish whiskey?
Coming soon. Do I answer questions or do I just rattle on? Rattle on? No problem. It was a good fight. Thought I smoked them the early rounds. I thought I bushed you up the early rounds, but I tell you what, you're one composed individual. You didn't get rattled. You tucked in when you needed to tuck in. I thought you switched up your game plan 3 times. You came out looking to box. I thought you were being outboxed early on. You looked to play against the ropes like you looked to play. You were getting picked off there. And then you came in, hands up towards your forehead, dipped in, forehead on the chest, and started to fight that kind of fight. I didn't anticipate that. Three game changes in the fight. That's what a true champion does. Much respect. You came with it. You know what I mean? I got to give respect to that. It was a hell of a fight. I would have liked to see the end of the 10th. I think fatigue. There's like a patch. There's a patch somewhere in the middle of fights. Even with the Diaz 2 fight, I have this patch where I must overcome. I get a little wobbly, and I start kind of. But it's more fatigue, and I can't. If you look at the Diaz 2 fight, I came through that. Came back round 4, round 5. I would have liked to see the end of round 10 and see where it brought us. But hell of a competitor. Switched it up. Kept the pressure. You've got to give your hat off to Floyd. A hell of a career. Congratulations. It was a good fight. It was a bit of fun, right? It was a bit of fun. I have to say I enjoyed it. The boxing game is a lot different than the mixed martial arts game from everything, the approach to it. I thought the referee done a great job as well. I do feel it was a little bit early, but I respect his decision, and I thought he done an amazing job. I thought he let the fight flow where it should have flown. I think Floyd's frames were nice. When he throws the shots, he doesn't smother his hook, he frames. And early on, when he was framing on me, I was shooking him and taking his back. But I'm like midway through the fight, when I at his back, the referee is just resetting us in the middle, and I'm like, somewhere in the middle of all that, I was like, I'm using valuable energy here to get to this man's back, and then we're just being reset to go again. So it kind of flustered me a little bit, and he was able to capitalize on it. He's very very composed, picks his shots very well.
He's very
bounces shots off.
Well, you can watch the full thing if you want, but he seems very. He seems like he thought that was still going to go well for him after that 10th. I was like, I don't know, man. And I don't know if that's just because. And the thing is, I've watched. He's not wrong in saying that he gets flustered in fights because Diaz did that in the second fight.
He was dead.
But that
goes 30 seconds more. He is fucking.
But even before that, he had his hands dropped. He wasn't like wobbly, but he was breathing really hard. And that's when Floyd just lit him the fuck up. And I just don't see how that conceptually was going to play out in his favor. Even if he lasted into the 10th and 11th, Floyd would have picked him off, and then it would have been a decision for Floyd. So I don't know if he thought he was.
I don't see another scenario where that lasts another minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was odd.
He was getting blasted. And, I mean, there's no legs. I mean, there was no shot. There was no shot. He would have gotten absolutely face planted. Like, slept dead, unconscious, twitching like a fucking fish. Like, there's no scenario where he would have had anything positive come out of the next 9 minutes of that fight had it even lasted that long.
Because he wasn't even trading back. He was just taking shot after shot after shot. I don't know if Floyd...
There was nothing he threw from the 7th round on that was remotely effective.
He came out strong in the... Was it the 8th or the 9th where he came out real strong in the corner and then they separated him? Like, he was fucking throwing bombs. And then he just... Then they stopped it.
It was the 8th, but there was nothing after that. I mean, it's just... That was the whole gas tank. And I'm not saying Conor doesn't has a shallow gas tank. I don't even think that's the right thing to say. I just don't think that he had any shot outside of that fight going 5 rounds.
Yeah, that's why he went for it. I mean, you can't blame him.
I mean, that's why he punched himself out. Like, that wasn't Conor being an out of shape fucking roid head. Like, that was Conor just not having a shot. Like, that was it. Like, the big left had to hit in 5 rounds, and if it didn't,
then
he got picked apart more and more every round.
You're fighting a tactician at that point. It's just not. It's not going to happen. So, do you think? I guess here's another question. He makes over $100 million for this fight tonight. In his pro boxing debut, there was a lot of discussion. Obviously, Paulie Malignaggi wants to box him. I don't know why. I don't know if it.
Cares about
I just don't even see that. I mean, that's just not going to be to the magnitude that this fight was. But do you think he fights again in the UFC? And there was some discussion of like, well, he made this much for a boxing fight. Maybe he could make. I mean, obviously he's not going to make
about $60 million in his career. He could probably retire.
Well, I mean, obviously now he could retire, but do you think he goes? I mean, obviously he said
he made 30. He made 30 tonight. So I mean, that's about doubles what he's made in his career, maybe total.
He made 30. Wait, what? Wait, what do you mean he made 30?
He made 30 million.
He made 100 million tonight.
No, he didn't.
He cleared 100 million tonight. Absolutely, he did. Now Floyd cleared at least 200, 300. But there's no way Conor McGregor only made a 30 million for this fight. He cleared 100. But the problem is,
according to CBS Boxing.
Well, for the
Mayweather. Sorry,
that's all right.
I got fucking lots of audio happening.
Unless
Mayweather earned a purse of 100 million, while McGregor brought home 30 million, according to ESPN. Same disclosed purse Mayweather received for his fight against.
For the fight, yeah, I'm talking everything all together, though. You're talking sponsorships. You're talking. I mean, he was heavily sponsored going into this fight, like to a degree where it's just. I mean,
right. That's the fight purse. I mean, he'll make 67.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's my question: is you make this much money off of how long did he fight tonight? He fought 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Does he want to prove? Does he have much left to prove? Obviously, there's some fights in the UFC.
Live gate tracking was 80 million tonight.
Okay.
So they will take a third of that and split it. 2/3 and 1/3. So Conor is going to make another 10.
Yeah, like fuck, man.
To 15.
And then you go back to the UFC, and it's like you're not going to see these numbers ever again. And not to say that they're not going to be.
This is a problem for the UFC, though.
It's a big problem.
It's a huge problem. Like, you're going to have to start paying. What they need to do is chop the dead weight out of their promotion and start paying the top end more. Because Bellator is willing to do it.
Bellator's got that Viacom fuck you money right now, so they just
they really do, and that's a fucking problem. Like, I mean, we saw it with what's his face? Was it Gegard Mousasi?
Yeah, he bailed. Yeah,
fuck that. I'm out of here. Like, this is bullshit. I'm not gonna go fucking fight undercard guys while I wait for Michael Bisping. You're gonna make me wait for Michael Bisping.
Yep, because they want to get that GSP fight in, which they promoted tonight. By the way,
huge joke. It's just a huge joke. It's a shitty fight. Like, don't tell me that's a dream fight. It's not a dream
really
fight.
No. I mean, I'll watch it.
Shitty fight.
I'll watch it, but yeah, it's not a fight.
I will too, for free.
For free. I'm not clamoring to. I want to see George back in the octagon, but yeah, it's not a.
I do too, but not against Michael fucking Bisping.
No.
Like, Bisping's the epitome of a guy that was a middleweight gatekeeper that had the night of his life against a guy like Luke Rockhold, who took him lightly, and he beat him, and then he beat a fucking 80-year-old Dan Henderson, questionably, to a lot of people. I thought Bisping beat him, but to a lot of people didn't think that. The guy was ranked 13th in the world.
Yeah.
Like, that's embarrassing. Like, I like Bisping. Bisping's an entertaining fighter. He does certain things well. He is not Gegard Mousasi. He is not fucking, any of the top 5 middleweights in the world. Like, that's a joke. And you're gonna and this is a problem they're gonna continue to have. Like, how long is Tony Ferguson gonna finger bang himself while Conor decides what he wants to do?
Well, that's the other thing is, like, I remember having a discussion I can't remember who it was. Well, I think it was, I was talking to my brother about this too, but I was like, Conor's not fighting this year in the UFC. And he was like, nah, I think it's going to happen. And there was this talk of like Conor wanting to fight in December against Khabib. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Khabib said in December he'll take $50,000 to fight Conor McGregor.
Which I believe. And Khabib needs to first worry about making weight and getting his shit together.
He does. But the two, look, here's my thing with Conor in the UFC. He's fought one guy bigger and rangier than him. And that guy beat him 1 and 2 times. And arguably 30 seconds more in the second fight may have finished him. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into those hypotheticals, but Conor's had some convenient booking and there, with the exception of Jose Aldo. I'll never take that away from him because Jose's fucking cyborg.
And he fucking picked apart Eddie Alvarez, like beautifully picked him apart.
Yeah, but Eddie's fucking 10 years ago. Like, I like Eddie Alvarez, but I mean, Eddie, Jesus Christ. I mean, I can't believe he beat Rafael dos Anjos. I can't. I still can't. That's the fight I can't get.
I know you want to see that fight.
That happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's a how the fuck did that happen fight. And I think Conor probably beats dos Anjos, but dos Anjos is so well rounded. I mean, you just don't know. But Tony Ferguson's a problem.
I just
Tony
don't see.
Ferguson. I mean, I think Khabib probably beats Tony. I think Tony beats Conor, and I think Conor probably beats Khabib. And those are the 2 fights that if I'm Conor, I don't want anything to do with them. I mean, I think Tony's a terrifying fight for Conor because he's so long, he's tall, he's rangy, he's more unorthodox. He's not as unorthodox as Conor. He's more unorthodox. I mean, he's fucking weird, and he hits just as hard. But he hasn't had, because Tony's always the guy that gets the guy with the fucking marble head. And
I would just be shocked. We're sitting here. It's August 27th. I would be shocked if Conor is gung-ho to take like a couple weeks off and jump back into camp and fight in December. Like, I just don't see that.
He's not going to fight this year. I mean, I
don't see
think
that.
The fight that he takes is probably March next year.
Probably.
If
he
that happens.
Yeah, if he even, I don't know. There's just a lot of questions of like, with how much
if
money.
If I'm Conor, I go home and I enjoy my kids and Dee's huge breasts and that's it. Like, that's my life. And
he could. I mean, he's made enough at this point where he could call it a day. But he also seems like a dude like.
But he also has fights in that contract. Like, people forget. Like,
he's got fights on the contract, and I really remember listening to him talk after the Diaz lost the first fight, and he was humble in defeat, but you could tell like because he immediately told Dana, I want to fight him again, and I want to fight him again at 170 because he wanted to prove that he could beat him. And it was like, now granted, this was a boxing fight. It was a completely different sport. It was a spectacle. It was mainstream. It was everything we thought it was going to be. But maybe he wants to go back to where he was and say, listen, yeah, I went in there. I fought the best boxer in history, and I hung with him for a while. But at the end of the day, I couldn't get the job done. But he wants to go back to his sport and continue to keep winning. But I don't know.
Conor is a guy that's driven by competition.
He seems like he is.
He is. And he talks all about the money, but everybody that talks to him is like, no, this guy fucking cares about where his legacy's at.
He's not Ronda Rousey, yeah, that's for sure.
He's not. And if he fight, yeah, he's not. I mean, Ronda was the best in a point where women's MMA was growing. And I mean, we talked about this back in 2010 when Brock showed up.
Yeah.
And dominated these guys. And I don't think it's because Brock is Brock is a freak show athlete, right? But the guy's coming into MMA. I mean, look at Francis Ngannou. Like, what the fuck is that? Mm-hmm. As a human, what is that? Like, athletically, MMA is growing exponentially, and in women's MMA, that growth is happening 60 times as fast, which is terrifying. And when I go back to the Rousey-Holly Holm fight, that wasn't Ronda Rousey having a fucking bad. I mean, yeah, bad coaching played into it, and yeah, I mean, Ronda Rousey thought she was unstoppable. That was one human being physically fucking superior.
Yep.
In every way that you can be superior to another human being, doing whatever the fuck she wanted to her. And I mean, Ronda Rousey could have fucking anybody. She could have John Michael John and switching corners. It wouldn't matter. I mean, Ronda's not Holly Holm on any. And Holly was 37.
Sounds like Ronda's training to become a professional wrestler right now, so that's going to be interesting.
God bless her. I mean, I hope she does, because that's where her future's at. She's not going to beat Amanda Nunes. She can't. I mean, can you imagine? Like, take Amanda and Holly out of it. Like, can you imagine Ronda and Valentina Shevchenko? That would be an execution.
Or even Cyborg.
Like, I mean, what the fuck is that? Like,
I don't know.
Why do you even look at that as something that's viable? Like, watch them move around an octagon. Like, watch the technique.
I know.
Like, they're not even the same humans. Like, that's a trash fight. Like, and I'm not taking away from Ronda. Ronda was the best when she was the best. Just like Chuck Liddell was the best when he was the best.
Yeah, for a while.
Then guys show up, and they've got fucking athletic pedigrees at the asshole.
Yeah.
And Chuck Liddell's just some dick that showed up and was like, oh, I'm going to fucking brush up on my jiu-jitsu on the weekend. Like, you don't do that anymore.
No. It's just, I look at tonight as like, I don't see this as like a blemish on Conor's mixed martial arts record, because he went in there and he fought like the best fucking defensive boxer of all time in his first pro boxing fight. Like, just imagine if like Conor took like...
This is Conor showing out to Eddie Bravo's Invitational in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Exactly. I mean, imagine if he took a couple like pro boxing fights and then he got this fight. Like, maybe we could have seen like some changes and some alterations, but like, whew, man, he went in there with the elite of the elite, and it's like, man, that's a. I mean, obviously it was because of the money, but I'm just curious to see where he seems like a dude that's very, very determined. Even if he loses, and he doesn't really feel like he lost too much tonight. But he wants. I feel like he's going to fight in the UFC. I feel like it. I don't know. I thought I said the same when Rousey got knocked out. I was like, oh, she's a dedicated fighter, and then I saw like a complete meltdown over the course of 12 months before she came back, and it was just a weird behavior. I don't think
this is different. I mean, like,
it's weird.
This is Conor like crossing into some realm that
no one's ever done before.
Nobody's done, but probably shouldn't have, and he had some success.
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, like, the two fights he has to take are Ferguson and Khabib. Unless one of the two of them lose, like this he has to take those fights. And you know, look, if he flatlines Khabib and Tony, get out of the. I mean, there's just no discussion. He's the greatest non-middleweight plus fighter ever. There's no question about that. And then we can fight about Silva and Fedor and all that other stuff. But like,
what about John?
And this is the thing that boxing fans just don't get. Like,
no,
you have 15-6 in MMA, you're a fucking stud.
Yeah,
like there's just so much stuff.
Well, I saw like Floyd was talking about Conor tapping out, and there was a lot of boxing guys. Well, this guy's tapped out. I was like, well, do you not understand that like he's in a legitimate fight? Like, he's not in a sport of punching. Like, this is different. Like, I don't know. I just felt like, you know, this is again that disconnect, and not to disrespect boxing, because I have tremendous respect for boxing, but I did see that, and you were talking about it earlier, that massive disrespect towards Conor and the body of work he's done in mixed martial arts, and a lack of knowledge about mixed martial arts. But you were going to see that with how mainstream this fight was tonight. So it was what it was. But
I mean, I think the fight for Conor that he has to take right now, and he's going to get backed into it, I think, by the UFC. And say what you want about Dana and trying to promote Conor, but Dana's always thinking 2 years down the line, and anybody that thinks otherwise is an idiot. And I think Dana sees past Conor. I really do. Like, I always give White credit. He's always looking 2 years down the line. Like, what's this look like? Because the UFC is the purveyors of the sport. Conor has to fight Tony Ferguson.
Yep.
And that's the fight. That's a fucking nightmare for him. And he's as long as Nate Diaz. He's as good. He's stronger. He's just as good of a boxer. And his leg kicks, his everything he does to the body, like watching him do what he did to Rafael dos Anjos, who's maybe, and this is, maybe I'm off. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you're better in this sport than I am by a long shot. But Rafael dos Anjos is the most well-rounded guy. And maybe he doesn't do anything particularly spectacular, but it's the most well-rounded guy I've seen in MMA in the lower rounds, and the lower weight classes outside of GSP.
I wanted to see the fight. I thought Conor was going to beat him, but I wanted to see the fight. What was funny was I was relatively nervous about the Eddie Alvarez fight. And then after the first round, oh boy, was I wrong. I was completely wrong about that one.
Oh, that's the thing with Conor. Like, and I thought
surprise you.
I thought if Aldo found range in the first round, it was going to be a fucking horrifying night for Conor because his stance is wide and he does. The funny thing about Conor is he does leave his lead leg out. Eddie Alvarez, the thing that drove me nuts about that was listening to Eddie after the fight. I thought his game plan heading in, when he like laid it out, like this is what we were going to do, this is what I going to work. He did none of that.
None of it, yeah.
And everything that Eddie had laid out was the way to be Conor.
He just
like
abandoned
everything game plan wise they had, and he didn't do it.
He bailed
and I don't know why he didn't do it. Maybe he got shocked with those first left hands, and
he bailed.
And that's fighting. Like you get in there and you have a game plan, you get hit twice, and you're like, "Fuck, I don't think I can do that." It's the guys that can take that shot and go, yeah, I can still execute this. Like, I'm going to stick with it. Maybe I'm going to rock for the first 4 minutes of fight. But
well, look at look at Woodley and Maya a couple weeks ago, and people fucking hated that fight. But I was like, well, what's Woodley supposed to do? Like, and then if anything, Maya was the real culprit there. Like, quit going for fucking takedowns, man. Like, change your game plan. Like,
Maya's such a one-trick pony. I mean, he's a powerful one-trick.
He's a powerful one, but I didn't understand. There was so much criticism.
The reality, but him and Stevie Thompson too. Like, I look at Woodley, and part of me feels bad for him because he's gotten literally the two most dangerous matchups for him in 3 fights.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
those guys are a fucking nightmare for him. Like, you can't just go and fucking, I'm just going to throw my overhead right. And those guys are going to sleep, and now I'm going to go collect my paycheck, and everybody's going to go happy cheering my name. Like, you can't fucking just throw bombs at Stevie Thompson. He's going to kill you.
I know. That was a good fight,
you can't just go fucking throw a haphazard overhand right against Damian Maia and not expect him to just wrap you up and squeeze the shit out of you. Like, that's what he's going to do. Like, the Robbie Lawlers of the world are much more of a better matchup for Tyron Woodley than those guys are. And that's the bitch about MMA. Like, boxing is a skill thing. MMA is styles. It is just
different.
There's so much shit that can happen in a 2-hour span, or in a 5-round span that you can't.
Just can't. It's just different.
Like, guys throw a shitty fucking kick at the wrong time, in the worst possible spot, and fucking still hit you with it and knock you stupid.
It's just weird.
Like that's MMA. Or you go and you like Chris Weidman. Everybody gave him bullshit for that wheel kick against Luke Rockhold, but it was actually well timed. Like, he had it set up and he just whipped it. Like, there wasn't anything to dissect about the fight. Like, Chris set the wheel kick up well. He didn't fucking connect when he needed to connect with it, and Rockhold took advantage of the mistake and grabbed him into fucking piss. That's what happened.
And I think you saw that tonight, where you had people who were so dialed into, well, unless your name was Oscar De La Hoya, who was kept saying, fuck these guys for doing this fight tonight. The real fight's in a couple weeks with Triple G and Canelo, but
in his women's underwear, snorting coat.
I know, but he was pissed that this fight happened tonight. But this is
the best thing that could have happened to Canelo and
I know, man.
Triple G, because
I didn't see it as a downside. Obviously there are people are saying, well, Floyd's not really 50-0, but it's like, well, whatever. He is.
He
is. Yeah, he won.
Who is he? Like, okay, so he fights Manny Pacquiao in 2009. Like, what's the difference? Like, what about what Manny does? And this is the boxing guy in me. And I just joke around with people. Like, when I was a kid, I wasn't a great athlete, but I was really good at learning sports and learning the ins and outs of them and what made each of them work. And a large part of that was me really learning boxing. Like, none of the success I've had in baseball could ever be attributed to anything that I did in baseball. It was all what I learned about sports and how to look at it from boxing. I remember I took a book out of the Douglas Library in Canaan, Connecticut, where I grew up. So many times. It was the Ring magazine's The Greatest Fights. Still have the book on my bookshelf. I took it out of the library so many times that the librarians just gave it to me. And I watched boxing religiously. I mean, I don't think I missed a Friday night fights up until the mid-2000s. Like, obsessively followed it because it was something I could never beat, which was that tough and that precise. And the narratives were there, the tactics of it were there. And so, you know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I feel like I understand boxing on a level that a lot of other people don't. And I look at something like Floyd Mayweather, and I look at a guy like a Manny Pacquiao. I don't know what happens in 07, 08 that's any different from what we saw 2 years ago. Like, I can't think of a single thing that Manny Pacquiao would have done in that fight that he didn't do in that fight, that he could have executed faster, stronger, or better to do anything to disrupt Floyd Mayweather. And I don't mean that to be a party pooper, but that's reality. Like, even when skills decline, there's still skills. And when you factor age into it, it's not like you're moving the needle measurably. And so, like, I look at the Pacquiao thing and I go, well, that's probably what the outcome would have been in 07 or 08. Like,
and his shoulder,
I look at the Marquez fight and I go, they could have fought that fight 10 times. It's going to go the same fucking way.
And Pacquiao's shoulder was fucked for the Mayweather fight too. He didn't really disclose that to a lot of people, but it was not good.
But
and
even if it's not, I mean, does it really go?
I didn't think it was going to be much of a difference, but
I don't, you know, and that's the thing. The only fight that Mayweather, the fights that Mayweather won that surprised me in the way that he won them, because I thought it was a bad matchup for him, was Maidana. Like, Maidana was the guy that I was like, this is trouble for Floyd, because he likes to show, and Maidana breaks defenses down. I mean, Maidana will hit you in the gloves for 6 rounds, and then 7th, he's starting to get a little bit more of the body. In the 8th, 9th, 10th, you're fucked. And Floyd Mayweather fucking embarrassed him for 12 rounds.
Deep rounds.
And that, you know, and I, you know, look, I don't like Floyd out of the ring. Like, I think there's a lot of things that we can talk about him.
Yeah, but that stuff, I don't bring that shit. Like, I fucking detest John Jones as a human being, but he's also like the Michael Jordan of the, now granted, he just tested positive again, which is a disappointment, but
I guess,
but it's like, I mean, obviously I think John Jones is
take the needle out of his butt. Does Daniel Cormier? I mean, there were 2 non-competitive fights.
I know, it was totally uncompetitive. I mean, it was, well, I mean, I thought DC was more competitive the first fight than he was the second fight.
I do too, and it was funny watching the breakdown of the second fight when they were talking about, like, oh, DC had him going for 2 rounds. Like, no, he didn't.
He was doing better than I thought he was, but yeah, John was clearly winning the fight. Like, that by no means was that going any direction than we thought it was. You know what was fucking terrifying? I don't know if you saw this quote from him, but when after the fight, when DC was angry and pushing people, do you know why he was doing that?
He was concussed out of his mind.
So yeah, he was concussed out of his mind. But Big John McCarthy sits him down on the stool and literally, and I'm not joking, DC said he looked over and he said, "John, to Big John?" He goes, "Why does John have my belt? The fight hasn't even started yet." That is fucking terrifying to know that a human being's lights were that turned off that quick that he had no idea that the fight had even started. That's terrifying. And then, of course, you know, I felt bad that, I mean, Rogan didn't mean, you know, he wasn't trying to be a dick by talking to him, but
yeah, well, he hated it after the fact.
Yeah, and he felt bad, but it was just like that's a different game. And I know, you know, and that's where I think a lot of boxing guys just don't get. It's a little different. I mean, granted, guys get completely knocked out clean in boxing. By no means am I saying that there's a difference.
It happens, but not to
the yeah. You're, like when Conor kept talking about shin bone, you know, connecting. It's just different. It's just a little different game.
I mean, there's just nothing that Cormier showed me in either of those fights that made me say steroids or not steroids.
Yeah, it's steroids or not. I mean, he could have done another line of blowing.
And look, maybe it helped John's conditioning. Maybe it helped his twitch a little bit. I mean,
I don't know.
DC, I mean, he game planned that entire dip to the right. I mean, DC's done that for 6 years. Like, yeah. John had it timed up. I mean, he waited for him to do that. I mean, that was the whole game plan. Like, that's what's sickening about that. Like, watching that after the fact, and then John Jones getting in front of the press, and they had Greg Winklejohn talking about it, and they were like, well, he feints to the right. So hit, dance, and when he fucking does that one little dip before he tries to throw the left, hit him with a fucking kick.
There's a video of him talking about that, how he said he'll never do that again, and he did it again. It's like, oh no.
Of course he did it again, because it's instinctual. Like, it's not something you just deprogram, you know?
No, it's not good.
And I just, I look at that kind of stuff, and I get the steroids thing with John Jones, but it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, it doesn't compute. It's just different. It's a little different.
I mean, and yeah, it's going to cost him the Brock fight. Maybe they go to fucking Ryzen or something, and they have the fight anyway. Or
have a Godzilla fight in Japan or something. Yeah.
God bless the Japanese. They don't give a fuck.
Oh, they give zero fucks. They don't care. They encourage their fighters to take steroids. Yeah.
But the big fight, I mean, to I guess to backpedal a little bit.
To round it up.
Big fight for I mean, Floyd's done. There's nothing. Nobody for Floyd to fight. I mean, there's just nothing interesting out there. He's done everything he needs to do. For Conor, I don't feel like there is and part of me feels like this is why Dana was so gung-ho about that. There's 2 fights out there for him before you're going to lose him, win, lose, or draw, and it's Tony Ferguson's got to be number 1. And Tony's been popping his mouth off all week. I mean, he's pissed. He deserves the fight. And look, I would say this, Khabib's a scary fight for Conor if Khabib can get through the strikes.
Well, let's chill that diet out and make weight first before we start talking strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but like,
fuck, man.
The weight, I get it, but the weight issue to me almost kind of bothers me a little bit, because I feel like guys use this as an excuse way more than they should. Like, okay, so let's say Khabib, I mean, it was a little different with the Tony Ferguson thing because Khabib hurt himself so bad on the weight cut. Granted, they showed him a video of him and I'm betted eating tiramisu fucking 6 days before the fight.
I know, man. It's like, come on. Like, you can't.
Like, that's lazy, and there's something that comes on to him with that. But, okay, so what's the 3 pounds going to make a difference if he's overweight?
It's not going to make a huge, but you gotta get your shit together.
I get it, but the thing that bothers me in MMA, and we saw it tonight in the undercard, where what's-his-face fought that guy that fucking went overweight and lost his title tonight.
Oh, the Mayweather guy, yeah.
And not the who was the kid with the tattoo on his neck that won the fight pretty easily tonight, but he missed weight by 4 pounds. Like, okay, so he missed weight by 4 pounds. Like, Tony Ferguson's not blowing up after the weight cut. Like, let's be realistic here.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I know why it exists. And Khabib should have a penalty. Like, there's a fight purse, deduction or whatever it so happens to be. But the reality of it is, I mean, Tony's a nightmare for Conor. But Khabib, to me, personality-wise, if UFC's smart, the next big business move is Moscow.
Yeah, have him fight in Russia. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I mean, Khabib and fucking Conor in Russia in Lenin Stadium is...
Have Vladimir Putin sit in front row, and that would be...
Oh, I mean, like... and the thing about Khabib is, I think people I think they underestimate about him is he does have a chin. If he can get a hold of Conor, this is going to be Nate Diaz shit where we clinch up against the cage and kind of try to jockey for position.
Honestly, I would rather watch the Khabib fight than the Ferguson fight. I know you're all about the Ferguson fight, but
I would. I'm totally with you. I'd rather see Khabib and Conor.
Yeah, I think
because it's such a contrasting style. Because if Conor clips him, he's dead. But if he doesn't, he's fucked. I mean, this isn't like this isn't Chad Mendez, you know what I mean? This isn't a guy that's like gonna take you down and do the ground and pound and find out like a 2-shot. Like the thing that was crazy about that Anthony Johnson fight to me back in New York on the Conor McGregor undercard. There was a moment in that fight where Johnson sprawled, like timed Khabib's shot perfectly. Like you couldn't have timed it more perfectly. And Khabib just kept going forward. Like literally almost flipped him over his back, just clipped his leg, and picked him up and smashed him into the cage and crucifixed him. Like nothing. Like it was nothing. Like this is just another day. Like just ate this guy's takedown of defense alive and then smashed him in the face with clean shots, about 18 of them.
When he was on top of Johnson, and I'm not kidding, you can hear the audio, like someone has a clip of it. He's literally going, okay, you can stop now. It's over. The fight's over. Give up. Give up. He's hitting Johnson, and Johnson's listening to him tell him, it's okay. You can quit. The fight's over. It's like, scary. That's fucking terrifying. That's that Russian, like, just cold-blooded man. Like, they're just, it's scary.
He's the only guy that I could see getting rocked by McGregor and
Maybe.
still finding a way to take him down.
Possibly.
Like that's what I like about the fight stylistically. The Tony Ferguson thing for Conor is just a bad fight because physically it's a bad matchup because he's the only other guy that's as unorthodox. He's got the length, like that's there. But I feel like I'm with you. I feel like that first fight needs to be Khabib.
I just hope we see him fight again, man. I don't know. I had this weird feeling after tonight that Conor's just going to be like, man, I don't know, man. I won 2 belts in 2 different divisions. I fought fucking Floyd Mayweather. I'm done, man.
So dumb. I mean, well, it is, but it isn't.
I would get it, but I'm like, whew, man, I want to see at least one more UFC fight from him, but I don't know. I thought he did everything he needed to do tonight. I was not expecting him to.
I feel like the one UFC fight we'll see if he comes back is going to be Nate, and I feel like that's going to be the heat-seeking missile. I feel like he's going to come back and go
trilogy.
I want Nate for a trilogy, and fucking Tony and Khabib.
Because from a promotion standpoint, I mean, yeah, I'd love to see Khabib. I'd be fine with Ferguson, but the money fight is the third fight with Nate. Absolutely, I think that would sell. And the UFC is. I mean. Think about this tonight. So the UFC has struggled really bad on pay-per-view this year. Like probably this is one of their worst years in a long time. And this fight tonight, the percentage they make off that, it makes up for a bad year for them. So they need to think about next year, which is kind of why I feel like Conor's not going to fight this year. So, make the fight happen with Nate next year. I just, that's the fight to make. I think that would be huge, but I don't know. I just hope Conor fights again. I'd love to see him fight again in the UFC, but
I don't think he's not. I think
hope
there's
not.
going to be 1, maybe 2 fights. I think Nate Diaz makes all the sense in the world from a money standpoint. But I also think there's just if I'm Dana, like, yeah, I'd love to go for the cash grab of Nate and Conor for a third time. But there's a credibility issue, and I know people can say what they want. You know, you're a money draw, you're not a money draw, but Bellator's got that Viacom money behind them. Like, how do you just keep treating Khabib and Tony Ferguson like shit?
I don't know.
Expecting that to go well. Like, they're not marketable fighters. I mean, Khabib is disgustingly marketable from the evil foreigner heel standpoint. Like, you got to have Hulk Hogan to go up against Khabib. But Khabib's legit Nikolai Volkov / the Iron Sheik circa 1984. Like, he's legit like the Russian Bear versus the fucking Irish, whatever. And there's a lot of money there. And the Viacom thing is becoming more and more of a thing. I mean, they lost Rory McDonald, and everybody can say, well, you know, it's Rory. He got his fucking shit pushed in by Robbie Lawler. But, like, okay, now it's Gegard Mousasi, and there's going to be more guys that are just going like, why am I sitting here waiting for Dana to like going to a press conference to just shoot my mouth off about granola bars and sodomy and all the other fucking stupid shit when I could just go to Bellator, get twice the amount of money, get treated like a fucking star where I'm wanted, and do that. Like, that's a real legit problem for the UFC that nobody's talking about right now. And I'm going to give Scott Coker credit, because the real legit young guys right now coming up in MMA are going to Coker's company. Like,
and who's
watch
to say
the undercards of those Bellator fights, and I watch the undercards of the UFC, and I'm like, this is different level.
It's
like,
different level.
It is. And I mean, Coker, I'm going to give him all the credit in the world because he's done it before. I mean, he did it with Strikeforce. He's fighting the senior he's promoting the senior PGA at the top of his card. And he's going out and overpaying all the kids that are coming up that are going to be something. And he's going to keep them because he's got the money that, I mean, yeah, he's given some of these guys at the top of the card a little overpaying a little bit, like, but not dramatically. And the guys on the undercard that would be making 10, 15 grand a fight in the UFC are making 40, 50 in Bellator, and nobody knows who the fuck they are, and they're going to stay there. And, you know, Scott's hiding the pennies in the couch cushions.
And who's to say they don't make a play for Brock too? If the UFC just, I mean, of course the UFC is going to try. And they were wanting to.
I think Coker's going to throw $7 million.
I know, man, because Brock's contract's coming up, and they'll sniff around, and they've got that Viacom money. So I mean, not to say the UFC won't try,
I
but
think the two guys that Coker really wants to get back in the ring again are Overeem and Brock again.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's awesome. A good fight to do a second time. And I think those are two guys with contracts coming up. And the other guy I think Coker's going to go after hard. And nobody knows this. And Ngannou's only got 2 fights left on his deal.
Really? I didn't know that.
Ngannou's got 2 fights left on his deal. He's getting fucking $30,000 a fight right now. Like, okay, so you go out there and you upbid him by 7. You're paying what, $400,000 a fight to the guy?
I didn't know that.
Totally getting the best heavyweight in the next 10 years. Like, that guy is I'm not a guy that buys in the UFC fight hype much. Ngannou's the scariest son of a bitch I've seen in heavyweight MMA in 12 years. He's scarier than Fedor. I mean, he's so quick and so strong. And, like, even if he loses the next 2 fights, like, I have no doubt that Ngannou's going to win the heavyweight title. Like, this whole shit with Stipe losing, what was it? He was going to fight JDS next fight?
Well, actually, they were trying to make John and Stipe as the next fight, and then that completely exploded when John tested positive.
Guess what? Francis Ngannou and Stipe. What do you have to lose?
Oh, I love watching Stipe fight. He gets so much shit from the fan base, but I love Stipe.
Stipe legit might be my favorite. I mean, fighter north of anything really.
He's so awesome.
His counterpunching's crazy. The fact that guy can pack that much power backing up is, I don't know, and now we're totally off into fucking.
Yeah, I know. I guess we should. I guess the reason we got on this tangent was because this was the fight that happened tonight between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor saved the UFC's poor pay-per-view business this year.
It saved 2 sports tonight.
It really did.
And it just is what it is. Like boxing.
Because
I love boxing, Adam. Like I'll go. I'm always gonna be a 60-40 boxing MMA guy. It saved boxing tonight, and anybody that thinks otherwise is a fucking idiot. And MMA really gained traction tonight just by proving that it could kind of hang around with the greatest of all time on a guy that's not even the best MMA guy out there, I don't think. But I mean, that guy went out and I thought, whether Floyd's throwing those 3 rounds or not, I mean, anything Floyd wanted to do to Conor tonight, he probably realistically could have done. But he didn't. And those rounds are always going to be Conor's. And, the fight sports need stars. Like, nobody should be sitting back here if you're a boxing purist or an MMA purist and going, this sucks. Like, this was a fucking lot of fun tonight.
You know what I was really disappointed.
People that I know don't watch sports. Like, they don't give a shit about baseball, basketball, football, soccer. I mean, nothing. They don't give a shit about anything. They were watching the fight tonight. Mm-hmm. They enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Let's all just admit it was stupid and fucking dumb.
But it was fun though.
That's okay.
I had fun. I mean, like, you're right. I sat in a room tonight with people that do not watch boxing or mixed martial arts, and they wanted to see what happened with this fight tonight. The one thing that, and I'm going to probably make the wrestling audience a little upset when I say this, but the one thing that drives me fucking nuts is that wrestling, like, oh, you spent $100 on this when you could have, had a full year subscription to the network, or I saved my money because wrestling's, but it's like, wow, like they just really, like, coming from a group of people that are in an entertainment atmosphere, this one just like either totally went over the head or they were jealous. One of the two. I would think they were jealous personally.
Pro wrestling lost a lot tonight.
Absolutely.
They're not understanding and listening. And to me right now, this is, and look, I love, me, I love pro wrestling. It'll always have a huge place in my heart in terms of, my experience growing up as a human being. I mean, say what you want. Like, I don't like admitting it to the general public, but like, I think I know more about pro wrestling than 99% of the human beings on planet Earth. And it's the only thing that I'll ever be able to say that about. Right. And, I love boxing, and boxing taught me everything I ever needed to know about sports. It taught me confidence. It taught me how to analyze things on an intricate level. And I like MMA because it makes me feel good. You know, like I think it's something that, and I'll never admit otherwise. Like MMA and baseball are so similar because it's like the more you feel like you've learned about it,
the more it changes. Yeah.
The more it changes, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm an idiot. I don't even know what I'm looking at. And I like the fact that there's that thing in my life that I can't just
it evolves.
Look at and be like, here's the math equation. Here's what makes sense. Like, I like the fact that I eat my words when I watch something like MMA and go, why did that happen? Like, what the fuck was that I just watched? Like, that magic and wonder, I feel like, in MMA exists in a sport that nothing else in North America is here. Like, we are in such a like, it's a cut and paste world. You know, you go to work, you get your paycheck, you go home on Friday, and everything that you thought was going to happen happens. The president gets on fucking TV, and you know he's going to say something dumb or this, and he does that, and it happens. You go and you watch even the NBA and Major League Baseball and NFL and any of it, the NHL, it's so analytically broken down now. And, you know, I've always been a big analytics guy, especially in baseball. It's what I built my career on. But the romanticism is gone.
Yeah, it's
like
gone.
There's just not that thing that humbles you. Like I was joking around with a member of the media the other day here locally, and I'm not trying to make this about me, but it was like I was talking to him, and he goes, well, you know, what was the formula? And I told him, I was like, you know, for the first time ever in my life, like, I had a season and put a roster together, and legitimately everything that I thought was going to happen happened. Like, and baseball is one of those sports where it's such a random variation sport. Like, a guy just flicks a bat out and it fucking goes in the 5-hole, and you just are like, what the fuck was that? Or you get the guy that's fat with no bat speed, and he fucking gets one barrel on the ball and drives it, you know, 390 feet, and it's a home run. And it humbles you because you can't control it. And I was like, this is the first thing in my life that I ever felt like it controlled, and then it just fucking happened. And my marvel was sitting back and sitting with my head coach and sitting with my owner, even my owner's daughter. And we were sitting around the campfire after the fucking title win. Guys are soaked in beer and this shit. And we're all going, everything went to plan, didn't it? And we're like, what the fuck happened? Mm-hmm. Like, how the fuck does that even happen? That everything just goes A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Doesn't always happen.
And like, and it's not just stuff that you can control, but like, you knew the stuff everybody else was going to do that they were going to fuck up. Mm-hmm. And so what's crazy about that is, like, I look at MMA, and that's the thing, that's the magic to me, is like, you can do the MMA math. You can look at guys in the stylistic matchups, a fuck show, right? And like, I can look at Tony Ferguson and Conor McGregor and go, Tony Ferguson is better legitimately everything in MMA other than Conor McGregor can do. Conor McGregor is probably still going to find a way to win. Like, it was, what's his face? The Lopez kid against Frankie Edgar. Like, how the fuck does the Rodriguez kid against McGregor, like, how the fuck does that happen? Like, and happen in that way. And the thing that I love about MMA is it's the one sport that we have left in this country and in our society. And this is where I feel like its upside is ultimately, that we could just watch and have romanticism about.
Yeah, we can have fun with it. Well, the whole point is to have fun with it. And like, that's what happened tonight. Like, I can't imagine that's what bothered me when I saw people in the wrestling industry sending out snobby tweets tonight. I'm like, fuck you, man. Like you're just
avoid. Sucks right now.
It does fucking. I mean, there's a couple things that I had a blast watching SummerSlam last week because of the monster main event they put together with Brock.
I haven't seen it. I still need to watch it.
It's so good. It was so good. But for the most part, it's like, man, like there's dudes like saying, well, I'd rather watch Triple Mania. I'm like, who gives a fuck about Triple Mania tonight? I mean, this was a once in a lifetime fight, and it was just so much fun. And I was in a room with a ton of people having a blast, and it was just like, it's just the snobbiness that comes out of wrestling sometimes that just drives me nuts. And I saw that tonight, and it didn't make me angry. It made me disappointed that it just goes over their head. And I'm just like, wow, like you are just void of any kind of, it's any semblance of like understanding the reality of what the wrestling industry is in right now. And it's, yes, there are pockets that are doing well, and there's still an industry that's generating a revenue, but for the most part, it's not that great. And to just get all snobby towards people that got it right is just makes you look like
that's a weird thing about pro wrestling. Like,
so
how did it
dumb.
get so country club?
It got very country
club. It used to be like, and that was the thing. Even 10 years ago, you go back to 04 and 06 when the Attitude Era was clearly dead and the business was in decline. But there was still like this underlying energy about it. Like, let's just go to a house show and get fucked up and fucking laugh.
Doesn't happen anymore.
Let's watch a pay-per-view and not be that pissed that John Cena won because this fucking guy just dumped a beer on a guy's head in the third row. Like, there was just a joy to it that existed, and now it's the weirdest thing in pro wrestling where guys are like, well, that wasn't a good back body drop. It should have been executed better. Or like, why is this here? And, I look back on it, now that I've separated myself from it. And I was a fickle pickle for, you, Jesus Christ, you and I spent countless years doing this shit together. And I'm as big of a fucking knob as anybody that talked about it in a literal and real sense. But now there's just nothing that's valued. Like, but part of what bothers me about that indie-esque style now is fun as it is to watch as a stunt show, like the storytelling value, the characters, like the things that you watch a TV show to see, interesting characters that have different motivations, and that's gone. It's just like, well, this is a guy with a generic name, and he wears a thing that does this, and he does this in the ring, and this is good. And like this guy, and he's a main event guy. Like, there's no narrative. Like, there's nothing following. Like, that was a whole thing about, I guess I'm not trying to push the rewind button too hard, but like, you go back to 2008 and you watch a guy like Jeff Hardy, who, they clearly didn't make a top guy because he's a fucking drug addict and unreliable. But you look at a guy like that, and the appeal of that 2008-09 run was the fact that an older generation of wrestling fans grew up with him. And they watch him be kind of a shitty spot monkey tag guy, and then kind of figure himself out as a fucking singles guy. And we're like, yeah, this is our guy. We grew him up. Like, and then the new fans came in and went, well, Jeff Hardy, look, it's fucking awesome. His hair is purple and green and shit, and he falls off the ladders. Like, there was that unifying, like, okay, this is a thing. It's all happening. Like, we all get this, and nobody's getting caught up in each other's shit. And I know it's not the best example because Jeff's a fuck up. And if I was a multi-billion-dollar company, I don't know if I would put the responsibility of important things happening there on him.
Well, they are now.
Like, there was that unifying force as a thing that, like, we need to find a guy that's going to be the thing that we need it to be. Mm-hmm. And, boxing's kind of lost its luster because it's gotten micromanaged into oblivion, where guys are deliberately avoiding guys and everybody's trying to play the safe bet. Like, I'd rather take 200,000 instead of 6 million because I don't want to get knocked out in the sixth and the slugfest. And that sucks about that. And I'm seeing that a little bit in MMA right now. And I'm kind of hoping that they don't get away from that. Because you go back to 10, 11, 12, like, Dana was like, fuck you. This is the number one contender. You're the top dude.
Yeah.
Do it. Like, do it. That's what makes this different.
Well, it's so weird because, like, I see people in, like, the WWE criticize Dana. They're like, yeah, well, we like to, take a story and lengthen it out, and we don't like to have a star be a star for 6 months, and then if he gets his, block knocked off, then he's out. But it's like, well, this is kind of how the fight game goes. I mean, it's just what it is.
Well,
but
that's also what Dana learned the hard way, though. Like, that's
he has to learn it, but it's
argument I'm making. Like, I'd like to see it go back more towards that, but like, what value is there from Conor fighting Tony Ferguson like 3 months from now?
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, it's a risk, but it's a risk that I think Dana's willing to take because it's the fight game, and you just have to. You got to go with.
But so Conor gets fucking flatlined by that kid.
Yeah, I think
he goes out and he fights Khabib and gets fucking his face pounded in the mat. Like,
I mean, you saw what happened with they put so much in Ronda, and I mean, it just. You got it. It's the fight game. It's not fair. It's not a pre-booked fair fight.
Right.
You just have to go with it.
That's the thing. Like, you have to be picky and choosy, but you also have to balance it on the other side of the boxing thing, where it's like, well, you can't just let Conor handpick guys when you have contractual control over them.
It's just different. It's just
there's
different.
There's a difference between, okay, we're going to give Conor Nate Diaz because it's an interesting fight and they're interesting personalities, but
it's
the winner
sell.
has to fight Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. It's going to sell.
That's the core of MMA that they've gotten away from. Like setting up the money fight, but being like, okay, but guess what, guys? Like reality's right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
This is nice that you guys are doing this and you're doing your balloon animals and your cholo gangster signs and throwing water bottles at each other and doing your thing that's going to make us a lot of money. But guess what, guys? Fucking cold, hard reality that looks like Tony Ferguson or Khabib is 3 months away. And guess what?
Gotta do it.
You signed to fight this fight with each other. You just signed a contract to fight one of those two guys, whichever one we see fit. And that's what's going to happen. And fuck you if you don't like it. Get the fuck out, pussy.
No, that's kind of what it is.
What's left from MMA. And that's what I don't like is that Dana's like, okay, well, we'll do the money fight. And then
I just don't think
he's a couple $1 million. So I'm going to pull my butt cheeks apart and just pretend that we don't need to treat this legitimately. And I think that's where he's fallen into the boxing thing. But I get it on a level because
I get it. I don't think he thought this fight was going to happen tonight. I'll be honest. He seemed like a dude that just thought this wasn't going to happen, and it did.
Yeah, if you asked me 8 months ago if this fight was going to happen, I would have. Not only would I have laughed at you, I would have pissed on your face.
Oh yeah, I would have too. I mean, when the news came out that it was done, I was like, nah, it's not done. And then when I saw the confirmations and then the press, I was like, wow, we're really doing this. Like, this is fucking crazy.
What the fuck is happening?
I still like. There was even a moment tonight where I watched Conor walk into a boxing ring, and I'm like, am I really going to watch Conor McGregor box Floyd Mayweather? This is fucking weird. Like, it was
totally same thing. I was sitting in a room with friends tonight, and I said out loud, I'm like, what are we doing?
What is happening right now? I know, it's so weird. We watched the bottom line to round this up, because we'll close with this. I fucking had fun tonight. I enjoyed myself, and I didn't mean to get on a tirade there about pro wrestling. I was just disappointed to see the snobbiness. Like, I expected that more from the boxing crowd, and I got it from the pro wrestling crowd. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? It's so weird. But I enjoyed myself. I smiled. I did not have high expectations. I was very surprised at times how well Conor looked. And it kind of went the way I thought it was going to go. But bottom line though, I enjoyed myself, and the bar is so low among pro wrestling fans right now that they just love to shit on anything, and they'll shit on that, but then they'll also see something that's being done correctly and better, like tonight was. And again, I know it's different. It's a combat sport. It's a boxing fight, but man, from a promotion standpoint, the interest level, they need to work on that in professional wrestling. And for once, boxing and mixed martial arts came together.
Boxing, you need to work on it in MMA. All of it. Like, tonight was a lesson.
It was a big lesson.
And I felt like everybody that cares about stupid shit that happens in a ring, like, this was something for everybody to pull from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it made me mad that people got mad that this fight was happening.
I know, me too. I was like, what is wrong with people? It was so weird. What a weird response, but I don't know. So bottom line, you enjoyed yourself if you had to.
I did. It was a fun night. I was really just excited about the fact that there was people that don't watch sports, period, that don't give a fuck about MMA or boxing or pro wrestling or any sport, baseball, football, basketball, any of it, that literally put their life on pause and said, I'm going to give this a chance. And it doesn't matter whether the matchup was good, bad, or indifferent. Like, I read the snarkiest think piece I think I've ever read in my life. Ryan Drosty posted it, and nothing about it wasn't depressingly true. But, like, this is actually legitimately, and I was talking to a friend of mine, he goes, this is the best thing America's done in about 5 years. He goes, like, legit, this is what America's all about. Like, just fucking taking chances, guys having fun, and, like, let's
fucking go for it.
Put the best and craziest shit in our culture.
Yeah.
And let's fucking do it and see what fucking happens. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it does, good on us, you know? And
culture.
I don't know. There was just nothing about this. I mean, I talked to my uncle tonight, and he goes, I can't. And he's a as much of a baseball purist as you get. He won the 71 World Series with the Pirates. He's got a World Series ring. So he doesn't give a fuck about anybody, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I can't remember anything past Ali Frazier that meant as much to as many people tonight, like as tonight did. Of that first Ali Frazier fight. Like culturally, he goes, as a significant moment, sporting wise, as a culture. And we can talk about baseball and everything else that we want, but like America was fought for. You know what I mean? Like, and here goes my politician speech, but America was like, was fought for. Like, we had Native Americans, black people, white people, everybody fighting for everything that ever happened over here. You know, Mexicans and Aztecs. And I mean, we just go back and as far back as we want to. And there's just something in our DNA as humans that transcends history, that transcends public interest, that just wants to see us beat the fucking shit out of another human being.
It's fun. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. That's what tonight was about. I mean,
we waged 2 world wars and fucking basically tipped the tides and won them both effortlessly. And I know I hate saying that with World War II. Well, but legit, like, think of it, like, compared to the sacrifice, like, if you go back to World War II and look at the Soviets and Nazis and the British and everybody, like, look at the amount of human sacrifice. Like, Americans just have this innate ability. We're legit a warrior culture. We're capitalists. We're known as making money and having houses.
But it's warrior culture, yeah, for sure.
But it's a warrior culture that we're so competitive. And for something to just put a country on pause
is awesome.
It's amazing experience to go through. And this was the only, these guys did something tonight was special. Now, I don't care what the outcome of the, I mean, Conor could have got flatlined in the first round, like
whatever.
The whole country. Think about this. Like, when's the last time, maybe the selection, because the Donald Trump win was such a fucking ridiculous, goofy thing that happened. But like, when was the last time the country just, outside of a catastrophe, when was the last time the country put itself on pause for something?
It just doesn't. It just doesn't anymore. Like Mayweather Pacquiao 2 years ago felt big, but not as big as this. And it's weird. Like, I remember a lot of people wanting to watch that fight and they were interested, but it just didn't. This one had a different flavor to it. It was crazy. I know, like, people got into like, Conor's racist and Floyd's, there was just all
curb stop the other day when they were face to face.
I know. There was some goofiness to it, but
that was a little American History X of you right there.
I know. I was thinking that scene.
But it's funny you say that. Like, there's a package store at the end of my street, right? And I walk in there. I remember, I distinctly, you know what? The thing I remember most about Mayweather Pacquiao was walking in there, like 3 guys being like, "Oh, you're watching the fight tonight," and they had beer in their hands, right?
Yeah.
I'm going, wow, like, people care.
They do.
I went to the package store tonight. There was about 15 people in there, and the freezers were fucking cleaned out. Cleaned out. Like, I walked in, like, trying to buy this like specific beer that I always is kind of my go-to, and I walked in there. I was like, fuck, I got about like 3% ABV beer. What am I going to do? How am I going to get drunk? And
you described it well.
Everybody was talking about it.
That was a good description that you just did, where you said it put America on pause. And I maybe I focused too much on the snobbiness of some of the pro wrestling people I saw that were kind of being who gives a shit about this.
There's 4 fights that I can compare to this to as an event. 2 of which I didn't live through. The first would be Jack Dempsey and Georges Carpentier back in the 20s. And when they did Boardwalk Empire on HBO, they spent 2 episodes. Like, all anybody was talking about as a side conversation was Dempsey and Carpentier. It was the first $1 million fight in history, right? And they fought in front of 117,000 in a makeshift fucking stadium in New Jersey. And that's all anybody talked about, because Carpentier was the light heavyweight champion. And then there's fucking beautifully cultivated, like, French gentleman. And Dempsey he wanted to fucking rip your jaws off your face and wear them as a head mask. And people watched that and were just enamored by the personality contrast. That's, you look at the history of that fight, and that was a put the country and the world on pause fight. You go to 1971 and Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, the first time. Like, everybody watched that. It was Ali, it was Frazier, 2 undefeated, the best of the best at their time. in Madison Square Garden in New York at the time when that was the biggest thing on the planet. The third fight, Tyson and Spinks. No doubt. Like, I was 9 years old when Spinks and Tyson happened. And I remember the whole week build up. I remember every day at school. I remember every day my friends talking to each other. I remember the fucking walk-ups. I remember the smell of where I was. I remember that 91 seconds more vividly than I've ever remembered 91 seconds of my life. Like, that was a fight that just made me a boxing fan. And the fourth is this fight. As an adult.
That's so crazy to say, too.
Just think about it. And, like, as dumb as the fight was, like, as outrageously mismatched as it was, like, these are two forces of nature. These are two different human beings than the rest of us. Like, I had a lot of directors. I watched the fight tonight with the fucking number 3 person in the lottery that watched the person win $759 million in the fucking lotto and was there when she did the press conference the other day and was talking about it. Like, I'm watching, that doesn't give a fuck about fighting or any sports. I'm sitting there with statistics nerds, professors, people that don't care, that get upset that we have fights that people get hurt.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. It just captivated. I was in the same situation. I was in a room with people that give zero fucks about sports, and they're like, "Oh, I gotta watch Mayweather and McGregor." I'm like, "What? Really? Like, okay, come on over. It's gonna make the price cheaper." So I don't know. I enjoyed myself tonight. That's amazing to me that you put this fight in that category of like of all time. But you're right, though. It did.
But as a cultural event,
it did.
As a good fight, no. I mean,
as a good fight, no. But as like a
paint by the numbers Floyd Mayweather fight tonight.
Putting in America on pause was an awesome description. That's a great way to put it tonight. So
the world. I mean, this
everybody
was
cared.
A fucking.
Even if you had something snobby to say on Twitter about it, you still fight. That's always funny. If you really don't give a fuck, you don't say anything about it, but you do kind of if you're commenting on it in any shape or form on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram. You're doing a stupid Snapchat with a filter. Oh, this fight's stupid.
But there's so many people that are like, God damn it, I'm going to watch it.
I know. I didn't care.
Just didn't want to watch it. That just
I didn't care.
Was
yeah,
like,
fuck them.
I can't go to work tomorrow if I don't have.
You got to see what happened. I know. I had to see what happened. I just had to see what happened, and I enjoyed myself tonight. So,
but even to go farther than that, like it's when I say that, like it defines our culture. It's like a time capsule. Like this is something that when my kids. I mean, my fucking 7-year-old daughter talked about it incessantly today.
That's so weird.
She doesn't give a shit about fight sports.
But she
knows who Conor McGregor is. She knows who Floyd Mayweather is. She's like, can I watch it? And I was like, yeah, I have to watch it before it happens.
Yeah.
But and I think about that, like kids that shouldn't ever watch. Like the thing about Carpentier and I'll make it quick, but like the thing about Carpentier and Dempsey that was so amazing is like, here's this emerging American juggernaut, and France recovering after World War I, and the best of the best. It was an international event with hundreds of thousands of people that just it just epitomized the times. It was like 1922 that they fought. Like it captured where we were as a country, but like where the world was, and the build up and everything around it did that. And it was the same thing with Ali and Frazier. Like Ali was a racist piece of shit to Joe Frazier with the gorilla shit and the fucking. You got this hot shot like I just dodged the fucking war and all this stuff going behind it, and you get this fucking guy that's just this lunch bucket slugger, and Joe Frazier that didn't fucking ask for any big fight. He just fucking went and mauled guys and beat them. And it was just these two contrasting personalities and builds that made everything in 1971 be what it was. And then in 88, I mean, the Spinks and Tyson thing was just this pure boxer that had fucking slapped everybody's face off. And an era where everybody thought they were lost in boxing and Michael Spinks. And here's this lighter weight guy that comes up and shows guys. And I mean, he's got superior boxing skills. He's fucking got a great jab and overhand. I mean, technically is one of the greatest boxers I've ever seen in my life. And this economic marketing machine in Mike Tyson that was at the point, like every white person's stereotype of Harlem. Like everybody's worst nightmare about getting off at 126th Street in New York on the commuter train was seeing Mike Tyson, and just typified the country's attitude. And then we watched this tonight, and even on the good and the bad with McGregor and Mayweather was like, we're making these freak show fights. Like, what's real? What's not real? Like, what should I pay attention to? What shouldn't I pay attention to? Like, is this even something that's worth my time? And
it was just fascinating.
It's absolutely worth it. And I feel better. This was the best of our culture as humans now. Even though the buildup was fucking a charade and goofy and silly and kind of embarrassing, but like it legitimately painted the picture of where we're at now.
Yeah.
And nothing, you could take those 4 fights to me, and that's it. That's the benchmark of a human event in a modern context, and that's what I love. Take all your technical analysis, all the shit you and I have talked about, every Facebook. I texted my wife at 1 a.m. after the fight, and she texts me back and goes, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And she watched it on a pirated stream on her own without me giving her direction or anything.
A lot of people did tonight. I'm curious if that kills the buy rate, but I had to watch it, full HD, and I didn't give a shit. The $100 thing is just not. I mean, maybe to some people that's a big deal. I could see like maybe if you're by yourself, if you're by yourself, I get it. But if you're with a group of people, that's fucking nothing. Just get like 5 or 6 people together. It's nothing. So I had fun tonight, and it was just a nice break from all the bullshit going on in the world right now, and
we needed it.
We needed a break, and tonight was the break. So I had fun, and plus it gives me an opportunity to shoot the shit with you again on a podcast, because we don't get to do this very often.
We should do it more often.
I know we should, because the last one we did was in Punk. Do you think Punk's apparently gonna fight again next year? So maybe we should do another one when Punk fights. That'd be fun.
God bless you.
Because it was such a shit show the last time we fought. It was hilarious. So people obviously can follow you on the Twitters via Hunter G Baseball. You're pretty much detached though from wrestling, right? You're pretty much straight up baseball, mixed martial arts, and political quips when you feel like it, right?
Oh yeah. Totally.
Okay, so give old Unky Hunty a follow, and we'll keep in touch. We'll do another one of these podcasts. Hunter's gonna take a piss, so he's gonna bail. he's gonna go piss himself. So I'll wrap it up. Thank you everybody for listening to this or tuning in live. We were not planning on doing a podcast tonight, but we had overwhelming requests for it on our Facebook group, which is currently the Trey and Adam Show on Facebook, which we will be rebranding before we do our next show, which is going to be in a couple weeks when WWE presents No Mercy in a few weeks, which is going to be Bork Laser and Braun Strowman. I'm looking forward to that one, so that'll be a good time. So we'll keep everybody informed if we're going to be chiming in before that next show. It's actually going to be something we're planning as a future podcast with the owner and webmaster of Wrestleview, Paul Nemmer. We're going to be celebrating 20 years of Wrestleview in December, which is crazy to think about. So we will be doing a podcast with him and kind of reflecting on the last 20 years and the changes and the evolution of the website and the VIP section and all that stuff that we've introduced in the past and phased out or reintroduced and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for listening, whether you were live with us on YouTube tonight or if you were listening on the SoundCloud or iTunes feed. Just search Wrestleview Media on SoundCloud or iTunes, and you can subscribe to the podcast that way, or look up Wrestleview Radio or simply Wrestleview on YouTube and subscribe, because subscribing to the channel helps, because we're trying to grow the channel and provide more content in between shows and keep people informed. So Unky Hunty, it was a fun time. Let's do it again soon. I had a blast talking the fight tonight with you. So
we should do this at least once a month or every other month, and there's lots of face punchy things that we should be talking about.
Face punchy things and probably no wrestling though, right? Because you're out of there.
Unless, yes and no. I mean, I catch up on the matches that everybody's like, yeah, you got to see it. And I still haven't fired up the SummerSlam match, so I'm kind of disappointed in that, because I was reading it and I was like, oof, God. It's right up my alley. It was fucking being King Kong and Godzilla.
Dude, I will be shocked if you are not laughing your balls off 5 minutes into that match. It is fucking great. It was everything I love about pro wrestling. So
I kind of liked the booking. I was like, wow, this
was awesome.
It was huge humans just doing stupid things to each other.
It was really, really smart. It was awesome. All right, everybody, we're going to get the fuck out of here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for requesting this, and we delivered, and we will talk to you very soon. Wrestleview Media on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Wrestleview or Wrestleview Radio on YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Bye.